Hi, y'all. Greetings. I hope you're all good. And yeah, I hope you're all good. So, I had this very fruitful conversation I always have with one of my friends, right? And I just felt that what we spoke about, the way it was that productive, I felt like I wanna share it with you all as well. So basically, we're speaking about HPV because we are both in sexual reproductive health space, right? So they were telling me about this diagnostic test that they have, because obviously I'm in a diagnostic. I'm working for a molecular diagnostic engineering company. So, since they know that I'm in the space and I am pro diagnostic stewardship, right? So, we're discussing in that regards. So, but they've gotten this one test and they were discussing me on my opinion about it because it actually calls out HPV genotypes. Basically, these are types of the viruses that are causing HPV infection. We know that HPV infection causes cervical cancer. So, actually, let's rewind. HPV first. HPV is an STI that causes cervical cancer. So there's many viruses under the family HPV. Not all of them are associated with causing cancer. So among this like it's so many of them, that family, there are those that are known to be oncogenic, or they are causing more than 95% of cancers. So among that wide variety of viruses, we group them according to high risk and low risk. This is the risk of causing abnormal lesions and cancers. So among the high risk also, there's still categories. There's the top three that are causing more than 95% of cervical cancer, being the genotype 45, 16, and 18. Those three are causing majority of cervical cancers. So when a woman is getting screened for HPV exposure or HPV infection, we definitely want to know which genotypes, in case they are positive, which genotypes are they infected with. So if it's either 18, 16, or 45, then that particular woman needs to be treated, who needs to be managed immediately by the current WHO guidelines, and as well as other OBS and Gynae medical societies guidelines. They recommend partial genotyping, that the diagnostic test that is being used, it must at least be giving partial genotyping or calling out these most oncogenic HPV genotypes. As I've said, right now the focus is mainly on the three that are causing more than 95% of the cancers, cervical cancers. Then we arrest those. Why do we care about cervical cancer? In South Africa, cervical cancer is one of the leading causes of death among women in South Africa. Number one is breast cancer, number two is cervical cancer. So majority of our deaths in South Africa are caused by this HPV cervical cancer. Well, HPV is causing the cervical cancer, so most women die from cervical cancer. And as you are screening, you find majority of them already by progressor to disease. And previously we used to be using pap smears. So with the pap smears, you have a window. You take a specimen, you send to the lab, and then you wait for the results to be available, and then you come back. So there's just back and forth. As a result, most of the women, they don't even get their results because it's a centralized system. They take the specimen at the clinic, then they must send to the hospital and then back, and like that centralized logistical complexity. Sometimes it results in them not getting their results on time, or when they get them, eventually there's progression of disease, or they don't even get them. It's lost in the cracks. Then they must redo and redo and redo. Actually, I know people that had taken their pap smear more than 3 times. They haven't gotten their results to date. Anyway, I'm not there. I am at the current. We know that technology advanced, right? We are in the fourth industrial revolution. So now we have the latest technology of the diagnostic test as well. We're no longer mainly using cytology, being the pap smear. The guidelines aren't saying pap smear should be used as first line the way it used to, simply because we know better and we have better tools. It's still there, it's still used, but the first line right now, it is recommended to be a net which is the nucleic acid amplification test or the molecular diagnostic test. So those are the tests that we were discussing. So this colleague of mine tells me that this tool is giving us all the high risk HPV viruses are 14. Among the 14, the 3, they are causing more than 95%. So we mainly care about those 3 that are causing majority of cancers, and then we test and treat them. Once you're testing, you find that it's one of those, then you treat immediately. If it's the others, you reflex on cytology. So that those are the guidelines currently. Manje, we were discussing, because I had told them about our test to say, have a look at our test. It's calling out the 3 oncogenic ones, and then the rest of the high risk, it pulls them all together to say they are infection caused by these. But if it's any of the 3, it gives you specifically one of those 3, or if there's co-infection, it's gonna give you like both or 3, whatever. So so this friend of mine is telling me to say, I feel the other test is better because it's going to give you the entire 14. So I'm saying, okay, it depends if you are needing a test for research purposes or for clinical purposes. For clinical purposes, we mainly want a test that informs the clinical decision. The doctor, when they conduct their routine work, they need to know on the spot what decision to take. In this case, when they're conducting this pap smear, they would need to know, am I treating this patient right away, or am I reflexing, or am I sending home? Like, they need to know what to do. So in that instance, we know that the genotypes that give you clinical actions are those 3 on the spot. Well, all of them, they give you, the clinical action. But as long as you know the 3, if are they there or not, one of them or all of them, are they there or not? If not, then you reflect on cytology if it's a positive test. If negative, obviously, they get away. You come test every 3 years if you're HIV positive, or every 5 years if you're HIV negative. HPV screening, by the way, in South Africa, we're screening women from 25 years of age. If they are HIV positive, if they are negative, they get screened from 30 years of age. Every 5 years and every 3 years, depending on HIV status, right? That's important. I did tell you what is causing majority of deaths, second killing in South Africa. And we have targets. We are chasing the targets to try and eliminate this cervical cancer. So the targets is 90, 70, 90. The first 90 talks to the HPV vaccination coverage. We need to have 90% of these young girls and boys, actually, that are covered. In this case, we're going to talk about women because it's cervical cancer. We know that children in South Africa from 9 years of age at school, grade 4, 5, they get vaccinated against HPV, right? So that vaccination coverage, we need at least 90% of those children to have received their vaccine for them to be protected against HPV exposure. Why the vaccination is important is because data proves that those women that are infected with HPV, remember it's an STI, they got exposed to HPV virus during their very first sexual encounter. Their sexual debut resulted in them being exposed to HPV. Once you're exposed to it, it depends how strong your immunity is. So we worry if there's now persistent of this infection, because it's the most common cancers, most common STI, right? You may have it, the body can clear it as you go, or especially if you're younger in age, it happens. But now the fear is that now it's killing majority of women. So clearly there's still the significant proportion of women that have persistent in this HPV. Well, then we said 90, 70, 90. The 70 talks to screening. We need to have screened in South Africa women, about 70% of those that are eligible to be screened. Who is eligible to screen? Everyone more than the ages of 30 if they're HIV negative, and everyone more than the ages of 35 if they are positive. And with that rate, we are not doing well at all. In sub-Saharan Africa, it's estimated that the screening rate is around 14%. In South Africa, I don't know the exact rate, but it's estimated that it could be around there as well. Then the last 90 talks to those that have been screened. They must be treated. They must have been treated. With the treatment, we're doing quite well among those that have been screened. But the emphasis or the worry, the biggest gap right now in South Africa remains those that need to be screened. We are at the lowest. We're very, very low in the screening. So we need every woman to be screened against HPV, and those that are screened get to be managed. So anyway, we were talking about the test. Oh my God, my time is up. I'll have to go to part 2. I'm so sorry.